Today we have roster management to discuss. And boy, everybody's talking about roster management. Does Tennessee need a GM? A GM would fix everything. Why don't you have a GM? Please hire a GM. So we'll discuss Tennessee and general managership. We'll also talk. That almost came out wrong. We'll also talk about the basketball roster that Rick Barnes continues to put together. Big Orange Caravan's been going on this week, so made me wonder: is Danny White? It's early. But is he the best AD ever over there? And cue those 10 people who always text me because their family lost the tickets. They had the lifetime tickets. I get the same 2-3 tweets a week. Danny White stole our tickets. But we're going to discuss just overall the program. Is Danny White the best AD Tennessee has had? And then also, I'm guessing you've seen this Bill Belichick stuff that's going on at North Carolina. It kind of made national news this week. Made Entertainment Tonight kind of national news this week. How would that be flying if it was here? Or would we just be saying, just win, baby, we don't care? Let's discuss all that. First segment of our program brought to you by our friends at the Garza Law Firm. When you hear the name Marcos Garza or Garza Law Firm, you need to think of 3 words: trusted, proven, and local. Marcos and his team have a stellar reputation in this community and all around East Tennessee. And unlike a lot of attorneys who advertise locally, the Garza Law Firm is actually based right here in East Tennessee. There are a lot of Birmingham and Memphis attorneys who advertise as though they are right here. And then you do a little research and find, oh, you're dealing with a lower level guy here who's working out of a strip mall. Garza Law Firm, that's not the case. They are East Tennessee. GarzaLaw.com to learn more. All right, let's welcome in the panel for today. And this is like one of our old-fashioned shows. It's been a long time since we've had the same 5 people in the same 5 podiums for the entire show, but that's what we're doing today, barring any health emergencies. All right, we got right there Josh Ward from 99.1 The Sports Animal. Josh, thanks for being here.
Thanks, John.
Chuck Cavalaris, longtime member of this panel.
Yes, sir.
Co-host of the Action Show on Sports Source Digital Network.
Loving it, baby.
Right here we got Ryan Callahan from Go Vols 24/7. And down there, my most trusted, the guy who's probably been on the most episodes since the beginning of the Sports Source, Bob Hodge. Because he was there the first week. I don't think you were there the first week.
That's the tail end.
Yeah, you came in.
And I'm feeling good now.
There you go. Excellent. Bob Hodge with us. All right. 24/7 Sports ranks Tennessee number 72 in their latest transfer portal rankings. That's you, isn't it?
I'm responsible for all of that.
I figured. Since the offseason began, Tennessee has lost 25 players in the transfer portal. 25 folks have left. That includes last winter, as soon as the season ended. So that's not just the spring portal, that's the whole thing. So they've lost 25, they've gained 7. Okay, now, you got to also keep in mind they had a huge recruiting class. They signed the full max.
Right.
But still, 25 out in the transfer, 7 in the transfer portal. That includes Tennessee starting quarterback Nico Iamaleava and starting maybe defensive back Jacoby Thomas, who both left. Some say this has been an absolute train wreck of an offseason. Others say, no. Tennessee is being smart and selective. I want to ask, has this been a terrible offseason? Has this been a bad offseason? Do you feel worse about this, or do you feel, it's fine, don't worry about it? Anyone?
When I hear some of these criticisms, I'm like, what are they missing? Aside from people maybe not being thrilled that they got Joey Aguilar as opposed to a sitting Power 4 starter that was proven and a potential Heisman contender this year, what else did they not get? I mean, there's a need at receiver I think people see. They clearly need another body there. That's a tricky one, though, because they're apparently not wanting to shake up the starting lineup unless it's for the right guy. I think they feel like they've got their starters unless they found a real impact guy. And right now in the spring portal, for instance, not a lot of guys out there, if any, that you would say is a possible starter. So when I look around, sure, there's a need for another receiver. They could use another safety now. But outside of those 2, I don't see a lot they've not done this offseason. And I think they feel they've got internal options ready to step in for all the rest.
This is I think it's Nigel Tufnell from the Spinal Tap who says, yeah, but this goes to 11. So I look at you and I go, yeah, but they lost 25 players. I mean, I see what you're saying, but there's a perception.
Yeah.
Right. 25 out, 7 in, fail.
But you said it right there. 25 signees on top of the guys that they brought in the portal, and they didn't lose a huge senior class. So when you combine that with the outgoing guys, they're a few below where they could be. But when you look around at what they could have or what they would add, And the other thing from the transfer portal, I think people got to understand, Tennessee's been looking for backups in the transfer portal this spring. That's a hard thing to
That's a mistake right there.
That's a hard thing to get when you're looking for guys who are hoping for an opportunity. So if you're kind of looking for the exact right fit, and that's hard to do.
Well, isn't it all about Josh Heupel's approach? He's trying to build a roster that's going to sustain itself through the years by recruiting high school players. Isn't that right, Ryan?
Then he needs to start playing the high school
Well,
players when they arrive on campus.
I think we said
better this
that
year.
last week. But this is like the nature of the NIL beast in the portal. It's so easy to leave. It's too easy to leave. And every time somebody leaves, it makes news somewhere, right? So that's 25 times you hear somebody's leaving Tennessee, somebody's leaving Tennessee. And then the times you get somebody, it's like, yeah, we got somebody. So you're like minus 18, on the news front. And that's what people see.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think train wreck is way too strong of a reaction to it. I get concerns. I get some of the negativity. Wide receiver position. So Tennessee added Amari Jefferson. That was their one transfer get. A young, unproven player from Alabama who's been coming back from injury as well.
From like Baylor School, right, in Chattanooga?
Yeah, so I think they could have done better in December, not the spring. The spring had more limited options. The December window affected them here. But to step back, I would say the biggest issue, if you're concerned of this transfer portal effect on the 2025 season, is Tennessee went to the college football playoff, right? And there was a clear gap between Ohio State and Tennessee on the field personnel. And it's difficult to say that what Tennessee has done through the transfer portal and with a talented but obviously young class coming in, that's going to get the 25 roster closer.
You close the gap.
Closing the gap to the teams that are really contending for national championships. It's difficult to say this offseason has put Tennessee closer this year to Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Alabama.
In fact, with a gun to your head,
Alabama rosters we've seen.
with a gun to your head, can you say that?
Yeah.
It's not difficult to say.
Right.
I would say it's impossible to say at this point. I mean, I'm agreeing with you. I'm not arguing it.
Right.
I would just take it even a step further. I see this as a rebuilding year. So the idea that you've closed the gap with Ohio State, this is just a reset year, and it didn't help that your starting quarterback is out. Bob, your thoughts on all this?
Here's what worries me about Tennessee losing 25 in Game 7. You last year were one of the top 12 teams in the country because if you look at the other teams that were in the playoff, how many others have suffered through the same kind of numbers that Tennessee has? And so to me, and Josh, you're right, are you closing that gap with Ohio State and Georgia and Texas and those other teams that you're chasing? I don't see how, like you said, you possibly can.
This year.
This year. And, I would put a little bit more faith in the good recruiting class you brought in if those guys had been playing with Josh Heupel for the past 4 years. But it seems like the freshmen come here and you don't see them again for a year. Or you've got, say, the receiver Matthews. He caught how many passes last year? He's 5-star, caught 7.
Mm-hmm.
So
But they were really impressive catches.
So that's what worries me.
Yeah.
Is if you were a school that played freshmen and they got on the field early and developed early and you were getting better with them, I'd say okay, that's fine. But instead, it looks like a lot of subtraction. I won't go train wreck, but I'll go with the train stuck at the station and ain't going anywhere for a while.
Well, and here's the only thing I would throw is, to be clear, I don't think they're taking a step. You're not closing the gap on Ohio State, so fire him. No. They're not closing the gap on Ohio State this year.
Yeah.
If it turns out he does play a bunch of these freshmen, and these freshmen look good, and the people he's brought into the portal look good, and you do close the gap on Ohio State next year, wasn't that a net positive? See, that's the difference. People look at it and go, no, it's all about this year. I look at it and think you're building a program. You won a national championship. Do you have to go through a year where you're starting a bunch of young people to get to the point? What did we say about Ohio State's defense last year? It was all those 4th and 5th year starters.
Right.
It was guys who had been there. So they went out and plucked people out of the portal, yes. But they had built that team, and it had been together for a long time in terms of that
Well, in
defense.
Michigan the year before, when they won, it's the same thing with
Veteran
Michigan
team.
when they won
Right.
the national championship. That was an old team by today's standards.
And when it was a young team, people were still saying Jim Harbaugh can't beat Ohio State, and he had to take a pay cut to stick around and all this stuff. So I just think that I wouldn't say that this is the end-all be-all year. I just think it's going to be slow growth this year, but we'll see. We didn't even get to the main topic here, so we're going to do that in the next segment.